Hey everybody, welcome to We've Got Ward, a Doof Media podcast series where we expertly dissect and discuss Wildbow's return... Ward, Wildbow's return to the world of parahumans. My name is Matt Freeman and... Whoa, watch it, Scott!
Oh, you kind of ruined the joke for me now. You just... Hold on, let me get back into... let me get back into character here, just... What?
You're getting blood all over the podcast.
We're dissecting it, Matt. There's gonna be some blood.
Huh. Never thought of it that way.
That's right. It doesn't work. I mean, it arguably worked, and then you fumbled the intro for the first time in 2.5 years.
It's because you were complimenting me on how I've gotten better at this.
Anyway, this is the weekly podcast where Matt and I eagerly dive into Wildbow's world of bloody messes, the multiverse's best comment section, and alien-based death powers as we analyze and interpret this ongoing web serial. This week, the epilogue is really starting to heat up, Matt, as we discuss chapters E4 and E5. First, it's time for Riley to return to civilization. At first, there doesn't seem to be a place for her, but she quickly finds a path forward through tea time with Kenzie, who also lets out that she's got a secret. Uh-oh. Then it's time for another fancy technology chapter as we check Victoria's email and then listen in on a phone call between her and her therapist. It's kind of creepy. But Kenzie's deep, dark secret is revealed. Tristan is in limbo. Fuck.
Uh-huh.
Matt, what'd you think of these two chapters?
I love them. I mean, Bonesaw is always a character who I love spending time in her head because... It's such a strange kind of character. Like you'll never meet anyone who's really quite like Riley Davis, but yet it's completely relatable, right? Like I think that's kind of one of the most amazing things about Wildbow's characters is that there can be a character where you're like, it's a former mass murdering, basic. I guess she's a woman, but she's trapped herself in the body of a 12-year-old so that she can. But like you relate to her is the thing that's that's amazing. And then of course I think it's a fantastic, beautiful idea to sort of loop back around to the kind of the motif of Glowworm having the the internet chapter, the email chapter. And I found that delightful, just kind of aesthetically.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I am kind of most interested in is the idea that, I mean, E4 kind of holds true to our standard epilogue structure, right? Basically, the structure that 1, 2, and 3 had, the fourth one has, where we take a point of view character that's outside of one of our main characters, and we use them to explore one of our main characters and how they're doing after the end of the story. 5 really bucks that trend in interesting ways. Like, it's structurally different. Obviously, the device of the chapter is very different from the writing, but it also differs in the tone, how things are organized, where we start versus where we finish is very different than the other chapters. And that's really interesting, right? Because we have this pattern, this established pattern across the first 4, and then this one kind of throws all that out the window and goes somewhere else.
Yeah, it is interesting. The closest you can say is that, well, we sort of check in on how Tristan's doing obliquely, but there's so much other stuff going on there. Like, okay, we're basically following Victoria because we're following her web presence and her phone presence, and we haven't checked in on Byron yet, which is, I think, one of the things that was surprising to me. I figured we would check in on everybody first, and especially. We definitely get Byron before we got to Tristan if Tristan was still around, and we didn't do that. I guess another thing that I'd point out is like, E4 is more on the trend, but I did think it was interesting how we didn't really I guess we did spend plenty of time with Kenzie. We did spend plenty of time with Kenzie, but I thought it was really delightful and interesting how we just kind of obliquely touch on Chris, and that's it. And I have a feeling that that's it. Like, we're not going to see any more Chris.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about Chris, but yeah. I think that's it, and I think it's fitting that that's it. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think when we look at these two chapters in particular, and E5 specifically, like, this is a cross-chapter plotline that's happening here, which is not something the epilogues have been doing, right?
True.
The epilogues have been just like, okay, the story's ending, and here's a scene where we're gonna like show you, we're gonna kind of go back over the thing that our character was suffering from, and then we're gonna leave them at a good place and then move on. And now these two have kind of established a cross-epilogue plotline, if we want to call it that. I'm not sure exactly where it's gonna go. I think it's gonna be wrapped up pretty quickly. I mean, obviously, I think we only have 2 chapters left, so it's going to be wrapped up relatively quickly. But that is a change in how the epilogue was ordered. And I want to spend some time talking about that when we get to the chapter. But we haven't actually started talking about the chapters yet, so maybe we should do that.
That's true. We got remarkably ahead of ourselves.
We did. I think we're just excited.
Yeah, I think we are. But I wanted to just, before we move on, I just wanted us to remark, like, I think the way I would frame the kind of cross epilogue plot line is that everything up until this point has felt like, oh, we're just allowing everything to come to rest. Mm-hmm. The end. This is how this character is doing. This is how this character is doing. Plot. There's more plot happening, and that's what was surprising about these chapters.
Yeah, but part of me thinks, and again, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Part of me thinks that this is just not a trick, but like, we are literally sucked into plot, and the end of that chapter is Victoria basically being told, hey, no. That's not, we're not doing this. The story's over. You're not doing this anymore. Like, this is someone else's problem now. You take care of yourself. And I really think I'm not entirely convinced that the next 2 chapters are going to be Victoria helps deal with the Tristan problem. I just don't think that's going to be what they are. It doesn't feel like that's what it's going to be. So I think it's almost as if the story is kind of like in a metatextual kind of way, almost allowing itself to get sucked back into the idea of plot. And like, we, the reader, I mean, I love this book, so I'm like, yeah, oh fuck, how are they going to do this? How are they going to fix this? What are we going to do? But then it's like, the story's over, buddy. The story's over, Scott. It's over. Step back.
Right. Darnall on the phone. Victoria's all plot.
Yeah.
Darnall's all no,
epilogue.
Not plot. Not
epilogue.
Plot. Epilogue. Yeah. I love
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
All right. Chapter 20.E4. So Scott, let's talk about opening lines, because I mean, Wildbow's really great at these in general. And here we have, please don't get blood on my car seat, which is just a perfectly arresting line, right? Like, you're immediately in, you're immediately full of questions. What's going on? Whose blood? Why? Who's speaking? Right?
Yeah. It's really great. I agree with you 100% that line in particular is great. And I was curious after I saw you write this in the notes, and I went back and looked at all of the epilogue opening lines, at least E1 through E4, and they're all similar in this regard. Like, the first line of E1 is, I hoped going in that I would be able to see your face. That's Chevalier. E2 is, I hate this, Chastity thought. This isn't what I'm good at. E3 is, there's so few of us now, and still so many humans, Jacob said. And then, of course, this one, E4, please don't get any blood on my car seat. In all 4 cases, it's an arresting opening line that is dialogue. Either it's, literal spoken dialogue or Chastity's internal dialogue. And it not only establishes the tone for the first half of the chapter, and maybe the chapter as a whole, but it also kind of slyly sets up the main idea of the chapter and the character as a whole, right? Because if we look at these, in the first one, Chevalier is stuck in the past, and part of this chapter is him realizing that the past doesn't have any answers for him. That opening dialogue line really hits the mark on that. In the second chapter, Chastity is working through this constant hurtful internal dialogue and trying to gain an ability to trust someone enough to have a relationship with them, that is beyond the physical, let's call it, that is something deeper, something more. In the third, Jeff, the nice number boy, is searching for a direction in the world in which he has no place, and he's searching for a companion or companions that can give him that direction. So listening to his former companion, his only friend Jacob, talk about how few of us there are here is pretty fitting there. And of course, this one, Riley is returning to a civilization that may or may not accept her. And the opening line is someone worried about her bleeding all over the place, because that's what she does. It is engaging and it hooks you, yes, but it's also thematically relevant. You can do multiple things with writing, and I think that's why these intros work, is because they are doing double duty. They're hooking you and they're relating thematically.
Absolutely. 100%. I'm really glad that you pulled all those out. And especially on this one, I agree, right? Like everyone who sees Riley, they have that reaction to her. Like, oh my God, not literally she's going to get blood and everything, but blood is going to be everywhere because of her. And it's going to be because she did something awful. And she has to constantly be aware of that fact. Like, and she is. It's sort of exhausting for her to know that everyone is always on the verge of, attacking her out of self-defense or just pissing themselves. That's basically how the chapter begins. So, I mean, it literally is. So, yeah. So what's happening, of course, is that Riley is riding in this car doing some complex surgery on her own leg. She briefly touches base with her select omniphage, which is fun.
Which she's named Omnom, which is just... It's perfect, Matt. I just love Riley. I love her so much.
She's great.
She's just constantly delightful, even when discussing stuff that's scary as shit.
Yeah.
I'm imagining someone doing surgery in a car on a flat paved road, let alone a road that's in a city that like has gone through an apocalypse and there's debris everywhere. It can't be that straight. Like, it's got to be terrible. It seems like a horrible, horrible idea to be doing this surgery right now. But I think it fits into this central idea that we really see in this chapter, that Riley feels this almost constant need to, as she puts it later, keep her hands busy, always tinkering, always maintaining, always altering, always doing something to keep kind of the shard at bay a little bit, to keep it satisfied enough to where she doesn't make a tongue-in-cheek person.
Yeah, well, this sort of is self-soothing in a sense, right? Like, I don't remember exactly why she's even doing this. Is this important? Does she need to be doing this right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what she's doing is prepping her lab, right? Like,
yes,
because what she does is she removes the marrow from her bone and then puts her basically everything she needs to get a new lab up and running. So I think it's like it's basically like a contingency plan. Like, she's about to turn herself in. She has no idea what's going to happen. I don't know how optimistic she is about how they're going to treat her. But I think she has a contingency plan and she's making sure she gets that done. Well,
that's I think that goes with what I was saying, that basically it's a self-soothing behavior and it's an anxious behavior. It's from a place of anxiety. And that's what really strikes me about her. She doesn't think of herself as being anxious. She doesn't use that word, but like her ever since she left the 9, it seems like her paranoia is just off the charts.
Sure.
Like she's always taking like multiple layers of steps to protect herself. Like just the thing where they sent somebody to go talk to her on her planet and like she was talking to them through a puppet. That was just the perfect example of it. But even here, like she is turning herself in, which is a huge step for her. Obviously very difficult for someone who has such issues with losing control and feeling afraid and feeling threatened. But even so, she's kind of giving herself a little I don't want to say out, but like a little solace here.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what she says to Kenzie, I think, reflects on her behavior at the beginning of the chapter, because she's like recognizing that this is going to be difficult, recognizing that she's going to backslide, that she's going to screw up, but just keep going forward. And that's kind of what she's doing whatever it takes. She's keeping herself busy. She's maintaining. And that is, I think, the motif of the chapter, maintain.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what she's almost both metaphorically and literally, by just keeping up her body. Cause I mean, that's something that I never really thought about, this idea that like, we've always been told that tinkers just like need to constantly be doing maintenance on all their tinker shit, but her tinker shit is her body. And so like she just has to constantly be maintaining herself constantly.
Yeah. I think we'll go into that more as we go, because it's so rich, right?
Yeah.
So I really love the character that Bonesaw has become. This mature young woman who has struggled against her issues, who has relapsed, who has found a kind of equilibrium with the dangerous parts of herself. Because like she'll still do stuff like this where, he chides her for, maybe making a mess. She says, besides, even if I did, I'm pretty experienced at cleaning up bloody messes. His laugh was nervous and unsure. She smiled. So she's messing with him, right? But like it's a playful way, right? It's not. She's not really trying to scare him. It's. I mean, I think she enjoys that she does scare him, but she doesn't want to push it, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, she's kind of towing the line, and I think a lot of this is like Riley is a person who likes to mess with people, and like. In the past, that has taken the form of some of the most cruel, horrifying things she's done ever. But I mean, she's gotten better and she's working at getting better, and that has she's changed in some of those regards. But she's still a person that likes to mess with people. And so I like that like you don't become an entirely new person when you're trying to like not become a psycho murderer. I don't know if that's a phrase that's ever been said before, but. I just think like I appreciate the attention to detail and the fact that like there are parts of her personality that are recognizable still, even though she doesn't act on some of her worst impulses anymore. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I like it better this way than if she had just completely shut off all of those impulses and just kind of silently rode in the car, right? Like there's still some of that Bonesaw in there. She's trying to find an equilibrium. I think she's learned that she can't really live without letting any of it leak out.
Right. Yeah, there's a balance. You can't go full Riley. Obviously, she doesn't want to be full Bonesaw, but you can't go full Riley. That Bonesaw part is still part of her, right?
Yeah, it's the constant riding the knife edge between the two, I guess. I mean, it reminds me of when she gave Swan Song like stabbies inside of her arms, and she was just like, look, like I have to put weapons in things. I'm sorry.
right yeah, I just can't help it.
Yeah. So she asks her driver for a favor in remembering to take out the patch job that she installed when she and the Warden's HQ crashed into an alien Earth. She muses about how she's never quite gotten around to reversing the changes that she made to herself to freeze her apparent age at 12.
Yeah, so there's a lot in this little part, right? I think the first thing I was really intrigued by this remember to take the patch job out thing, because I think it sets up this interesting dynamic where she's a person whose brain is just like constantly spinning and whirring, to the point where she ultimately just like loses track of shit, like loses track of what she has and hasn't done in her own body.
Right.
And this is kind of introducing the idea that she needs other people in her life. Like, I think she in this moment waves it off as, I usually have my assistants do things like this, but her assistants are like monstrosity, like clone monstrosities that are just like ordered to do whatever. And she's talked multiple times about how incompetent they are and how annoying they can be at their mess ups, right? Like the question you have to ask is, if those assistants were such good replacements for people, why are you here? What are you doing here, right?
Right.
But I think like it's really great, and I really love the idea that like she needs to be reminded about these things because she's gonna forget. Like there's just like so much going on in that head constantly that she's just gonna forget.
Yeah, right. I mean, as you're pointing out, I love this idea that she keeps going back to repeatedly throughout the chapter, where she's like, I had my whole world to myself, a whole world to be my workshop. And yeah, she's giving all of that up because she knows that that's not good for her, or it's only good for the part of her that she wants to get under control.
Yeah. Basically, what she says to Kenzie later on, tinkering is not enough. It's not enough to just tinker. Like, that's not enough for me. It shouldn't be enough for you. It's not enough for anyone. And so she's choosing here to recognize that. And I want to talk about the little throwaway line about her age here, because I think this is really interesting. We made this big deal in Worm of the fact that Riley was a little girl who, over the course of a certain part of Worm, grew up a little bit. She grew up by a couple of years, or at least a year and a half or something. And then right near the end of Jack and the rest of the nine sleeping, she decided to undo all that. And this was really like thematically interesting, right? Because like her growing up symbolized her changing nature, her ability to start recognize her problems and not exactly feel bad for them, but how interlude 25 and Worm put it, realized that she should be feeling bad for them. And so that growing up was a symbolic part of that change. And then at the end of that interlude, she undoes it. She reverses it, partially because she felt stuck and trapped, and partially because she felt that it's what she deserved. And there was this one line, I reread the Bonesaw interlude chapter, Matt, because I love it, and it was wonderful. But there's this one line that jumped out at me on this reread. This wouldn't be a penance. That would suggest penitence, but it'd be just as best as she could figure. And so, Matt, a few years later, maybe that's why Riley just, quote unquote, hasn't found the time to reverse the aging process. She's definitely not playing the part of the child anymore, right? Like, no, we can say definitively the character we've seen in Ward, especially this chapter and the one before it, she's not doing any of the giggling or the childish talking or any of that kind of stuff. She's really not doing that anymore, especially in this one. Nothing of her dialogue or thought process here has any of that kind of kiddie type behavior. That's all gone. But on the outside, she's still the same looking person, that instantly recognizable child monster. And she might be for 100 years, she says. And maybe like this is part of that same idea of penance, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that she may feel like she doesn't deserve to leave this behind yet, right?
Sure.
As you say, she's instantly recognizable. She shows up at the place. Everyone immediately knows who she is and craps their pants.
Right.
And she could totally change her appearance. Like easiest thing in the world. She could probably do it with her eyes closed. But not only does she not change her appearance, she doesn't even let herself change naturally. Mm-hmm. She thinks she deserves to be this person,
this instantly recognizable person,
this instantly recognizable nightmare person who everyone knows to be afraid of, and I think that feels just to her, and maybe even it feels like there is penitence at this point in time. I mean, sure. She doesn't say there is, but she turns herself in. I think honestly, turning herself in here has more to do with knowing that this is the best thing for her.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think this is about justice, this particular decision. But I do agree with you actually that keeping her appearance this way has more to do with justice, at least maybe subconsciously.
Yeah, I mean, it sure would make her day-to-day existence easier if she could walk around without people recognizing Bonesaw, right? Like, right. And you're absolutely right. Like, she could do that super easily. That would not be hard for her at all. And yet she doesn't do that. It's very interesting, and I think it's very like I when the first time I read the chapter, I read it, I was like, ooh, maybe by the end of the chapter we'll get like the way we'll leave Riley is this realization that, oh, I need to grow up now, and that's not where we leave her. Like, she doesn't have the I'm gonna undo the blocks that have not allowed me to age. She doesn't get there. She doesn't do that. But like, she does definitely seem to, like, internally, she's not pretending to be that kid anymore either. Like, this is just like an external how other people view me thing. Yeah. I think the closest thing to any of the kiddiness is wanting to have tea with people, which is, I mean, adults do that too. In fact, that was a Swan Song thing. So yeah. I love all of that. And we'll hold off on talking about the end until the end. But, sure. Yeah, we keep skipping ahead this week. It's so I think chapters that aren't terribly plot heavy lend themselves to skipping around, because you're looking at the whole structure of the thing that this text has done, which is woven throughout the whole chapter in a way where the linearity of it doesn't matter so much. So I think that's why that's happening, just to give us a little break there. Anyway, she squelches the marrow of her thigh bone into a universal lab in liquid form, and then she muses about the phrase tongue-in-cheek, which is like horrifying in a very specific Bonesaw kind of way that I just love. But I think it goes to show you specifically like how the mind of a tinker works, right? How one thing catches in your mind and then you just kind of run with it and just automatically coming up with all the most amazing / awful ways of doing something. And it makes me wonder, and this, I haven't thought about this too much, but it makes me wonder if Tinkers specifically have a harder time of this concept of moving forward, of recovery, of acceptance than maybe some of the other capes do. Because like, if I'm Victoria and I'm like, okay, here's my problem, what do I do to solve my problem? And then you come up with some strategies and you try those strategies. If you're a tinker and you're like, okay, here's my problem, then your power goes, all right, I got it. Here's what we do. We do this, we do this, we do this, we do this. Boom. You just make this machine. It'll solve your problem. I need to learn to accept and love myself. Bio-tinker, I can do that. I can make your brain. I can do that. Here's the blueprint. I got it. It's right here. I don't know if that's actually true, but it just like it would make sense how like we're at the end of the story and the one character that's really struggled is Kenzie and still struggling. I mean, they're all struggling. Let's be honest here, but like she's had, I think, the hardest time moving forward out of any of these characters.
Yeah, it's been more 2 steps forward, 1.5 step back. Sure. with Kenzie for sure. Yeah, I feel like we've talked before about people with mental powers tending to have a harder time in certain regards, like sensory powers or thinker powers or what have you.
Yeah,
where
that's fair. It's not just tinker. Yeah, I think like a thinker power would have a similar problem.
Yeah. I mean, in anything where it directly distorts your own literal thoughts. And I think, yeah, I mean, it's a continuum, right? Like, but I get your point. Like the fact that her brain is really, I think that's one of the genius things that Wild Blow's done with the powers in general is that so many of them involve intrusive thoughts, and intrusive thoughts are extremely relatable. Like that's so many different manifestations of mental illness and just the struggle of being human is intrusive thoughts of various kinds, right? So having this power where anytime anything happens, especially if she's afraid or angry or perturbed, her power starts telling her how to take people apart for their spare parts and build them into monstrosities.
Yeah.
And accompanied with that, it seems like she has like an itch to actually do something about it too. It's not just like she wants to do it, right?
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it's very convincing that this would be a really hard existence, and I agree completely that Kenzie probably is dealing with the same type of thing.
Right. Like imagine, like, I mean, it like, I am terrified my friends hate me. I wish I knew whether they liked me or not.
Yeah.
And then your tinker power goes, oh, well,
yeah.
Here's a sound camera.
Yeah.
Like here's a past camera. Right. You can see what they said in the past about you. Here's some helpful stuff. I can solve this problem for you.
Yeah. I want to know if my crush likes me. I can detect her physiological state.
Yeah. Just here's a blueprint. Bam.
Yeah. You're welcome. This will make everything better for you.
Yes, it will. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, that's great. Yeah. That's horrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So eventually, though, after she's having, a bit of fun imagining what it would be like to rearrange High Concept's head, he catches her staring and says, "It's hard to shake the feeling that I'm going to regret this job. I'm paying you good money, High Concept. Why would I go through that charade if I was going to kill you or give you a cosmetic mutation?" Uh-huh. High Concept's voice had a higher pitch to it.
We only see this person for a very short amount of time, but I already love him. I like that, like, it's so interesting that High Concept is a villain here, right? Like he's labeled a villain. That's what she calls him. That's his, I guess, operating status in capedom. But like, it just goes again to establish the difference between villain and like what the Slaughterhouse Nine were, right?
Yeah.
That here's this guy and he is very, very freaked out by this whole thing over and over again. And the concern about blood money was really interesting too. Like, is this blood money? And she said, I didn't earn this hurting anyone. And he's like, not that I wouldn't take it, but I wouldn't spend it as freely if I knew that, which is just perfect.
No, this is just if Seth Rogen triggered, like he'd be a villain because he obviously wouldn't be a hero, but like he wouldn't like be a try-hard villain.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm like, Seth Rogen listens to this podcast and he's going to be like, hold up. I wouldn't be a hero? The fuck, Matt? And then pretend I like did a really good impression of his laugh, and then we can move on.
Yeah, let's just splice that in right here.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
So once she finishes operating on her leg, I really love this moment where Riley looks out the window and we see kind of another view of the ongoing survival of Gimel here. And it says, the city was being patched together. In a way, without the civilians there, it was easier to do the necessary work. The cracks were being paved over, and where they weren't in position to do the paving, they had a quick deploy bridges crisscrossing over the gap like structures. Buildings were actively being knocked down if they were hazardous, and the ones that were stable were being supported and added to. So I really like this, Matt. Like we're rebuilding. We're not like we said at the end of the arc that we didn't think that our characters were just going to be like, all right, next world, let's leave this one behind and move on to the next one. And we saw last week that wasn't happening, that they were scavenging. But I love that we've kind of moved along in the timeline a little bit here. We're seeing they're paving over the gaps, they're putting bridges over, they're rebuilding, and it's just another angle on what's happening in the big picture as we're focusing on these small character moments.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we've seen a lot of this stuff happening in the background. There's been a lot of really fun, like quick, rapid kind of passive description of the things that are happening in the city, and it's great. Yeah, it's this kind of hopeful hope amongst the ruins type attitude.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So anyway, Riley then walks into the local warden's office and turns herself in. I love the description of how people react to her arrival, just the fear, the freezing in place. Mm-hmm. Off to her right, someone stepped out of a doorway with a washroom sign above it, saw her, and turned around, disappearing back inside. Just so many great details where you can just really put yourself in this scene. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I love the reception guy attempting to type, but just like fucking up constantly. Yeah, and I love the text is like typo. Like it's just really, really great.
Yeah.
And of course, the thing that matters is not only is it happening, but that she is aware of it happening, right? Like she is fully conscious of every single one of these people and what they're doing and what they're saying and how her attitude is influencing that. Like she's keeping her hands out of her pockets so people have less reason to panic. And actually, really, until she starts getting kind of the invasive pat down that she thinks is stupid because she could easily hide things that would never be discovered in a pat down. Like she's keeping her annoyance with it like in check pretty well. Because I think she's recognized, like, the thing that is so interesting about this point of view is that Riley is like terrified and nervous about this whole thing. And I think her point of view does a pretty good job of disguising that. She kind of feigns annoyance and like it isn't, except for a few key moments, we really see her nervousness come to the fore. Yeah. Where like that she just doesn't know what's going to happen here.
Yeah. I mean, we have to go out of order here again because this is critical, is that it's only at the very end of the chapter. I'm literally going to scroll ahead because I want to say the exact quote. It's only toward the very end of the chapter where she basically decides, okay, I don't actually have the quote. She decides that there's like actually hope, and she says she'll stay the course. Mm-hmm. And to that, like, that implies to me, like, at this moment there's actually some doubt whether she'll actually stay the course. Like she's not. Things weren't working for her where she was because she was lonely, and she's gonna give herself over to these guys and really hope for the best, but also like, I think maybe her actual expectation is that things are just not going to be great, and there's a good chance she'll fall off the path. There's a good chance she'll have a relapse. Like I think that's what she's afraid of. I don't think she's afraid that like they're going to attack her, because I think she knows that she can handle them. I think she's afraid that she's going to have a relapse and turn back into Bonesaw. Like to the extent she's afraid they're going to attack her. She's afraid they're going to attack her, and she's going to fuck them up and then go on a killing spree or something like that.
Yeah. Well, what I love, I love when she's worried about getting shot. She's like, it has nothing to do with like getting hurt.
Right.
She's like, I can operate on very little levels of blood, and that will freak everyone out, and that will complicate things more. Like it is less concerned with her own physical well-being, which of course makes sense because she like just can't die. She just can't fucking die. But it's very, I don't know. I think she is concerned about the way people are going to treat. I mean, I totally agree with you. She's terrified of backsliding. That is why she's decided to leave, because she said the place where she is most likely to continue on her path forward is here, back here among people. But I also do think she's pretty afraid of what people are going to think and what's going to happen, because I think the operation that starts the chapter is happening because she's giving herself an out. She's got one foot out the door, kind of one leg lab out the door.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think she's really, I mean, I think at root, she's nervous that she just won't be able to find any human connection at all. Like it'll just be, they'll put her in a cell and she won't be able to do her tinkering. And then
right.
I think that she already kind of knows that wouldn't be acceptable to her, and she'd probably try to find a way out. So like, I think that's part of what she's nervous. I think it's fair to say there's a lot of different things she's nervous about.
Sure.
But as you say, though, none of it is telegraphed to us, really. It's all, you kind of have to dig into it. You kind of have to notice things she's paying attention to, because obviously she seems cool as a cucumber. Like everything about her demeanor is probably downright intimidating. But yeah, I agree with you that she's pretty uncertain.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think it's one of the ways in which I love Wildbow's writing when he shifts perspectives like this, because the text, like, I think Wildbow characters in general tend to be fairly introspective. Like they think about things a lot, and we are party to those thoughts. And I'm not saying Bonesaw Riley isn't thinking about things here. She obviously is. But I do think her thoughts are a lot more reserved and guarded than some of the other point of views we've seen. Mm-hmm. Like compare Chastity, who I think was just very, very aware of everything that was going on in her head, to the point where it became like destructive. I think Bonesaw, it definitely, like, I love that you can feel the personalities in the different chapters.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. So, I think there's like an interesting, like shadow on Rain's choice from the last chapter, like a reference maybe, because, you know, Riley has like dallied on her isolated planet, but then she decided that it's not good for her. So she's turning herself in, and it's very much a reflection of kind of what Rain did, or what Rain chose to do. Yeah,
I mean, it is, but I think Riley is much less interested in penance than Rain is. Like, yeah. I think they're hugely different people, and their choices for being okay with like surrendering to the system are very different. But I do agree with you that it's a couple chapters very close to each other in which characters are basically going to the system and saying, okay, I think this is going to be best for me in the long run. It's interesting, like, to see two characters that are so different from each other approaching that same idea, though.
Yeah, I think that's what was fun to think about, is like, it's actually hard to figure out what is similar about it other than the superficial level of, well, they're turning themselves in. It's like, yeah, but very different situations for both of them. For sure. Yeah, so eventually she's checked out superficially. She's ushered back into the cell block, except there's no free cell for her, so they just kind of leave her in the hallway. And it says she wasn't sure where to go or what to do. She had been on the fence about coming because she'd been comfortable and free to tinker where she'd been, and nothing was guaranteed here. Not freedom, not companionship, not safety. Now, finally here, only to find there wasn't any place for her. She couldn't imagine going back.
I love that. I love that, Matt.
Yeah.
Now she couldn't imagine going back. Like we said, she walked into the situation kind of with one foot out the door with a contingency plan in place, not sure, terrified, and already here, even in a place that seems like it might not have a place for her. She's already like fully cognizant that she's made the right choice here. Like that staying there was bad. I love it. And like you said earlier, like, I don't think we can overemphasize the fact that she was free. She could do whatever she wanted. There was no one there to tell her what to do. And none of that is guaranteed. Like, the thing she wants here is companionship, and that's not guaranteed here. She still wants freedom, but maybe a more structured freedom. She wants safety. None of that is guaranteed here. Yeah. They have no idea how the wardens are going to react. And yet she feels that she must do it. It's worth the risk. Trying to find your place is worth the risk. Uh-huh. And I think that's one thing, you know, another kind of common motif across these epilogue chapters so far have been the search for home, right? The search for your place, your home, both literal and metaphorical. We spent the Sveta Numberman chapter. Like, Sveta is literally searching for her home right now. Numberman has found a home with the malfunctions. Chastity has kind of found a home. She's moving to become part of the city. I think Chevalier is re-engaging with an old flame. Maybe searching for that seems to be a common motif across these chapters here. And so that's what Riley is looking for, I think, a place to belong. And it's so perfect to me that she makes this big choice. I want to go back. I want to find my place in this society again. And they don't have room for her. Yeah. I think it's such a perfect image of getting to the end of that hall and just being like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. Right. Like she's actually rather desperate for some kind of humanity, something to ground herself. And I think that shows through. Like, she gets to the end of this hallway and her thought isn't, oh, they don't have a place for me. I should leave. I should go back. This is the wrong choice. She thinks, oh, well, I mean, I guess I'll just wait here until something reveals itself, because I can't go back.
Yeah.
I think that's really that shows I think that shows how low she actually is. Like, she's such an interesting character because she doesn't give us the typical cues. It's almost like Kinsey with the smiling, where you really have to read between the lines, I think, to get a sense of how kind of close to the edge she is to have come back at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How lonely she must have been to have come back and
right.
Yeah.
Maybe that's because we opened the chapter with her casually doing surgery on her leg while shooting the shit with this random villain and intentionally telling jokes to make him uncomfortable. And it's just look how cool I'm doing. I'm totally fine. I'm chill about this. This is my choice. I think you're right. I think it's really interesting how the tone is kind of played with there.
Yeah. Yeah. So Riley wakes up after having kind of dozed off in the hallway. To a commotion as the chicken tenders have arrived for their daily visit to see Chris.
Yeah.
They aren't being allowed in because Bonesaw's there, but this doesn't stop Kinsey from sneaking into the cell block, the hallway, and almost getting ganked by Riley.
Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, the fact that the tenders, that's the name and it's sticking forever, that makes me feel real good. Uh-huh. It is interesting. I understand why Kinsey is here to see Chris. I think it's both adorable and weird that the entire team has come with her, and presumably comes with her every time, right?
I would guess.
Maybe it's just they just they're worried about her and just are gonna come with her to make sure that everything's okay, or that Chris doesn't do anything that hurts her or anything. I think it's adorable. I think it's really adorable because none of these people have any kind of connection to Chris. It's literally just her.
Yeah. I think so. This is months.
Mm-hmm.
Months.
Yeah. We learn that the winter's over here, right? So
yeah.
I think the book ends in November. I think it is. So yeah, she's been going every day for months.
We don't know necessarily that there haven't been breaks in there, but just the idea that it's been months and she's still visiting Chris every day is.
And Chris probably has never said a fucking word.
Yeah,
him.
Chris just continues to be a complete piece of shit.
Yeah. So Matt, we see here that Kinsey basically goes stealth mode to sneak back and chat with Riley. Is that refresh my memory? Is that the first time we've seen a full stealth suit from Kinsey?
I think so. I couldn't remember another occasion where she had a invisibility cloak.
Yeah.
I remember plenty of times where she was not actually somewhere, where she sent herself as a projection, but I think this is actually flesh and blood Kinsey with a stealth suit. Mm-hmm. So, which seems like it would be right up her alley, really.
Yeah, it does. This is, of course, something I fully believe she could do, and it strikes me as really cool, but also scary.
Right.
I can't help but just be oh, Kinsey can already see everything, and now she can be there without being seen.
We're really escalating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So with each of these interludes, I think we're getting more of an impression of time passing. Like you mentioned, Kenzie tells us the winter is over. She says things were rough, but the Capes stepped back and they let the humans handle their own business. Riley actually, she says, but they got to do it on their own with just the help they wanted. And so we're getting this sense that there's a much better balance being struck between the Capes and the humans.
Right. And I thematically, I love that we're not sugarcoating anything. Like that winter was hard. People died. Like that happened. And there was nothing we could do to stop it. And so it was going to happen. And this concept of no one person can save everyone. No one group of people can prevent all death. All you can do is work together. You ask for help when you need it and you try as hard as you can. And that's all you can do. That's just existence. And like it was hard and it was rough and people died. But like you're absolutely right that like, it feels like we've struck a balance. We've come to an equilibrium between these superpowered people and regular people, that they will assist and they will be there as long as they are wanted, but they are not going to unilaterally act for the good of mankind anymore. That they're just not going to behave in that way, which I think, like, we, again, to go back to this idea that agency is one of the most important elements of this book, of having agency, keeping it, like being in control and having the choice and making your own decisions and not having them made for you. I think this equilibrium seems to support that idea.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, perfect.
I do love this recurring beat that Stealth Master, like invisible Stealth Master Kenzie, can't keep her voice down because she's just so excited to be here talking to Riley. It's adorable.
It's so perfectly consistent. It's so well done, right? Because everything she says, she's either like obviously too loud, and then Riley kind of gently tries to shush her, and then she's like slightly quieter for 1 second, and then gets loud again. And she's just so excited to have made a new friend. Yeah. Which, I mean, speaking of that, like, it's so perfect that these two would meet up, right? Because like they have this shared background that they can talk about in terms of like being tinkers who triggered young. They talk about Ashley, they talk about Damsel and how Damsel hired Kenzie for a job and spoke 3 words to her. 3 whole words. Yeah.
I love that in particular. I mean, with the exception of Chris, who we'll get to in a minute, I love that we're like even leaving some characters that the story proper ended with very little hope, with a little bit of hope, right? That maybe this idea that she'll come around and realize something eventually. This could literally just be Kenzie optimism here, but I don't think so. I think this is maybe some growth, a minute bit of growth in Damsel of Distress.
Yeah, I read it that way as well. I read it as like she wouldn't have hired Kenzie in the first place if she wasn't on some level open to this idea of like a real connection.
Yeah. What do you think the 3 words were?
I don't know.
I think it was, that was adequate.
Okay, now that you've said that, I can't possibly do any better. So that definitely headcanon accepted.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. So Riley and Kenzie agree to have tea together at some point. And I'm sure that this is going to go over real well with Kenzie's other new best friend, Brian. I
mean, that's very funny, but it might though.
Yeah, I mean, I had to make the joke, but also like, recovery, right?
Yeah. I mean, the idea of Brian and Riley being like the coaching team that takes care of Kenzie is like the most delicious, wonderful concept in the world. And we're going to talk about why Riley is like the perfect person for Kenzie in a bit, and why I'm mad that I never saw that. But I think it's really wonderful that Brian can speak to a very specific part of Kenzie, and Riley can speak to another very specific part of Kenzie, and that together, maybe not like together as in like in the same room together, but with their powers combined, Kenzie can have a support system that actually pushes forward and makes progress. And instead of the 2 steps forward, 1.5 steps back that you mentioned, maybe bump those numbers up a little bit to 3 forward, 1 back, something like that.
And maybe I am being wildly optimistic for the Parahumans universe, but like maybe, Brian has been struggling with this this trauma for a long time. He couldn't even get it fixed by kind of doing radical things with Valkyrie, but maybe he could actually like have a little sit down with Bonesaw and see like that she's different now, and maybe that could turn the key in his brain that all the other stuff didn't actually do. Who knows?
Yeah,
who knows?
Interesting. Yeah,
I know I'm being optimistic, but wouldn't it be great if Brian could be freed of that, because that's something that's been hanging over him for the whole story.
It would be wonderful. Yeah. I think that's a long way off, but yeah.
Yeah. So Riley gives Kinsey the lowdown on breadth and depth, explaining at least in part why Kinsey's power has its hooks into her so deep. Mm-hmm. She says, so I pulled this out for a very specific reason. She says, depth, it's the connection to the power. You dig that well with violence, conflict, desperation, fatigue. It becomes like a friend, but you don't make a lot of real friends that way. Lookout nodded. I know people like that. So who do you think Kinsey is thinking of here?
Is it our favorite golden force field flying protagonist friend, perhaps?
I mean, that was my first thought, honestly.
I mean, like you read a sentence like you dig that well with violence, conflict, desperation, fatigue. And who's the first person that pops up in your mind? Like
those those specific words, right? Because she could have said like she could, even if she left off desperation and fatigue, I probably wouldn't have gone to Victoria immediately. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I definitely went to Victoria immediately.
Yeah, and of course, it becoming like a friend is very pointed as well.
Yes, exactly. But Victoria doesn't have a ton of friends either.
No, she's got some. She's got her some. She's got Vista and Sveta. And
yep.
I really love this moment where Lookout says to her, "We're the same age," and Riley stops her. Right? Riley says, "Hey, no, we're not." Like circling back to that entire discussion we just had earlier. They are not the same age. Riley looks like a 12-year-old girl. She's not. She's 16, I think, right? I think she's somewhere around there. I think she was 12, and then she grew 2 years, and then she made herself look 12 again, and then 2 more years happened. Yeah. She ought
to be 16. It's funny. I did this calculation differently the other day, but yeah, I think 16 makes sense to me.
Teenager.
Yeah.
So she's older, and I love this. Like Kinsey looks at Bonesaw and sees her as me, right? Like she's a tinker, like just everything you said. She's a little girl. She triggered at the same time I did. She's a tinker. This could be a friend, my best friend. And really what Bonesaw is going to end up being here is more of like a mentor, like a sponsor situation here. And I love that she stops her here. Like she could have just let the we're the same age thing go, but Riley is not 12. She's not. And so she's like, no, we're not the same age. I am not this person. I am an older person that has had more life experience, that has gone through this stuff than you. And I think it helps like reframe the dynamic between them in a place where maybe Kinsey's able to take the advice in a way that she wouldn't if this is a 12-year-old like me.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I mean, if anything, she's closer in age to Swansong than she is to Kinsey, and so it's closer to that kind of relationship.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny because everyone always talks about how impossible it is for anyone to deal with Kinsey, but like Riley is rightly like, I've dealt with some fucked up people, Kinsey.
Yeah. Like some of the like no one can be worse than these. Like you, there are very few things you could ever do in your entire life that would be worse than what these people have done.
Yeah.
Right. And are people as messed up. Yeah. It's perfect. Like, it's perfect.
It is. It's so good. So after Kinsey swaps some recipes with Riley, some tinker recipes, she asks if there's a way to bring people back from the dead. Riley decides that she doesn't believe Kinsey's small smile. Kinsey hints that she did something very embarrassing, which we know is Kinsey code for just the worst possible thing.
Yeah. I think we find out what that is in the next chapter, so maybe we'll hold off on the discussion until then. But it is kind of an interesting note to exit this chapter on, right? Like the big theme of this week's podcast, Matt, is how these chapters are different from the other epilogues. And while I still do think we're leaving Kenzie on a slightly hopeful note here, in that I think Riley is one of the most perfect people to be in her life right now. It is an interesting change that we like you said, there's plot now. We're leaving this chapter on plot. We're leaving this chapter on concern for Kenzie. We're kind of falling back into the same habits you and I had all throughout Worm, where I was constantly like stressed about Kenzie.
Yeah.
And so every other time we've left our epilogues in a place where we felt pretty good about the characters. Here, not so much. But I still do think with the assistance of Riley, Kenzie can take steps forward on her path. But it is a little bit of a different tone here at the end of this chapter.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what Riley says to her is hopeful. It's all hopeful, but there is this question mark of like, well, how is this going to fall out?
Yeah.
So Riley tells her the secret to moving forward with problems like theirs is to maintain, keep yourself in working order. And I just love how this is written so much. I could just like tape this up in my house somewhere. Keep your hands busy if your hands are a problem. Go to places where you know you can be stable, even if it means leaving a workshop that's the size of a deserted earth to seat yourself at the end of a prison hallway. Then you either keep maintaining or you relapse. When the relapse happens, you watch your world implode, and then you pick up the pieces and start from the beginning. Contemplate, prepare, take necessary actions, and maintain. It's so good.
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole book, right? I mean, this is the whole book. And each epilogue has imparted this lesson on moving forward, on acceptance, on survival, tailored to a different member of Breakthrough that was struggling through the lens of another character. This is Kenzie's. This is Kenzie's version of the central question of the story, which is, how do you move forward? How do you move forward on your path when your life has been awful, when the worst things in the world has happened to you, when you've done some of the worst things in the world? How do you do this? This is the answer to Kenzie's question. And that's why I think despite the big secret we have, we are ending on a slightly hopeful note for Kenzie still. I can't get over how wonderful, like, logical and this is, Matt. Like, when we were looking for someone earlier in the book who could really help Kenzie, I think you, I, and like half to all of the fandom went Dragon and Defiant. Look, they're Tinkers too, and they're awesome, and they're kind, and she could be like their little kid, and it would be so adorable. But when you take a second and think about the people that were able to get through to Kenzie the most, the first name that jumps in your head is Swansong. Not the great, adorable, like, couple that's perfect. And it's Swansong, a person who's had this dark, complex life. And in that vein, Bonesaw is just perfect. Maybe even better than Swansong. Maybe even she can do things, she can reach out to Kenzie on a level that not even Ashley could. I don't want to fully relate this to alcoholism, because I don't want to relate like tinkering to alcohol. That's just a complex. I don't like it, but I think the fact that relapse has been used here, we're kind of relating it to addiction in some way, right? Sure. And so, like, in Alcoholics Anonymous, in Narcotics Anonymous, you get sponsored by someone, and it's by another addict. Like, it's by someone who has gone through the same thing you've gone through. Like, and I think in that regard, Bonesaw is just perfect. And I don't know why I didn't see it before. I mean, maybe it's because she's so removed from the story and outside of most of it. It's just not a thing that I was really thinking about at all. Right. But it is just perfect. Someone experienced with this exact type of recovery are the best ones to help out others with their recovery. And that in turn, as we see textually in this chapter, could also help Riley on her path as well. I
think it could. Yeah. I mean, I think that deserves attention, right? This idea that she's sort of, I think she sees herself as having had a relapse recently, which is interesting because on the scale of Bonesaw, it really wasn't much, right? What happened was, like, an accident happened. She was teleported to this other planet. Jessica got paranoid about something she was doing, and it led to an altercation where she injured Jessica, but and then like obviously felt so horrible about this thing that she exiled herself to another world by herself. Mm-hmm. And like on the scale of like things Bonesaw has done in her life, that ranks pretty low, right? But she still felt so bad about it, and really I think considered it to be a relapse. And you know, so like I do think that somebody like Kinsey on the flip side could give her kind of a bit of perspective, a bit of balance. I think they can help each other, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, one of the great truths is that like teaching someone else teaches you as well. I think I've learned more about reading and books and analysis, like sharing that with the world, than I ever would like just doing it, just reading this book normally, right? So it's like, and not that we're teaching. I'm not a teacher. Jesus, no, not even close. Teachers are amazing, not close. But my point is that like, I think this absolutely true that Bonesaw is good for Kenzie and taking care of Kenzie or taking on some of Kenzie's burden is good for Bonesaw.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things that's just I love that it's here at the end of the story because it allows us to just imagine what would happen next, and we're never going to get to know, and that's beautiful.
I like it better that way. I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Me too. And I love this final moment where, basically Kinsey has said like, okay, I did something, you know, she says, you know, in reference to what Bonesaw had just said, like, well, I guess the implosion is coming soon. Mm-hmm. And then she turns on her invisibility, and before it can fully activate, Riley sees that her face just kind of falls, and she sees how poorly Kenzie's actually doing. And the text says Riley reached out because she felt that same weight and weariness. She connected to it enough that she felt compelled to make some kind of physical contact. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful. Like, I mean, there's our motif of reaching out. That's been a connecting point throughout the story. Riley seeing that fake smile, I think, is just a perfect overall symbol of the way in which Riley sees Kenzie that others can't or don't, you know, like that she's been with her for 10 minutes and she's already seen through Kenzie's like most long established coping mechanism, which is the fakeness of the smile. She's immediately. And so it's the perfect, I see you, I understand you, and I can even see when you're hiding and when you're bullshitting, because I do think you're right that like Bonesaw, the theatrics of Bonesaw were for a while a similar thing for Riley.
Absolutely. The little girl act was absolutely that. It was covering up. It was camouflage. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I like that a lot, actually. That's a great pull. That's a great parallel. I didn't think of that. So Kenzie vanishes, and then the Capes come to bring Riley to her apartment.
She gets her own apartment, Matt. Not a cell, an apartment.
Yeah. Yeah. She tries to make a parting overture to Chris, who replies with his accustomed snark, of course.
Yeah, and this, Matt, could be how we leave Chris in the story. And I think this is a heartbreaking but extremely fitting end. I have loved Chris throughout this entire book. I think he's a wonderful character. I think he's deep. I think he's complicated. And I think the end of his story is disappointing. And I think it's a designed disappointment, right? Because he never did the work. He never tried. He was always too afraid to take those steps. Riley came back to civilization because she recognized that it was the best thing for her. Chris never made that choice. He never did that. He came close a few times and then he backed away at the last minute. And like, so to be this end where like that we see he's just silent and sulking. And the perfect part about it, I love that Kenzie is still visiting him every day, because it's almost as if to say, you still have an opportunity. You still have a choice. It's right here in front of you. There's still a human being right here in front of you, willing to extend some love, some acceptance, some community to you.
Yeah.
You don't deserve it at all.
Right.
You've done nothing to deserve it, but it's still there. And you still, every single day, make the choice to deny yourself of that.
Right.
And
yeah.
I it's just the perfect end for him.
It is really funny because Waldo could have made it different. Like it could have been Chris is alone. Nobody cares about him anymore. And that means he's right.
Right.
Because I was right all along. The world is dark and no one cares. No one really cares. But no, Kenzie's still coming.
Yeah,
even if he turns his back to her every day. Yeah.
He was wrong about literally everything.
He's a little baby.
And as long as he continues to deny that, he's going to be alone and miserable. And here I'm going to quote Dickens here, Matt, because there's a line from A Christmas Carol that I think works perfectly here. As the ghost of Christmas past shows Scrooge himself as a young man, and he's promised in contract to this woman named Belle they're going to get married. But she eventually releases him from his contract because she says he's become more obsessed with money and his insatiable greed than with her. And as she releases Scrooge, she says, "May you be happy in the life you have chosen." And it's this wonderful line. Like, it's like so much emotion there. And that's me with Chris right now, Matt. That's I hope you're getting what you wanted, Chris. May you be happy in the life you have chosen. Goodbye, you little piece of shit.
Yeah. I agree that, this ending for Chris satisfies me about as much as Trickster getting murked like halfway off screen and without comment, where like it's a character who I love and I couldn't be more satisfied with his ignominious death. The same goes with Chris here, where I'm just like, yep, you suck.
Yep.
Stay in the cell. I mean, there's a chance we'll see him again. I would be totally fine if it was just snark ass, stay in the cell, enjoy that. Bye-bye. The end.
Yeah. Yeah. I will always, there's still 2 chapters left. As long as there's chapters left, I am never going to say anything definitively, but I would be surprised if we saw any more, Chris.
Well, think about what a perfect ending it is on the level of he was always afraid of being put in a cell and observed. That was literally the thing that he hated. He hated to be in a box, and he hated to have people tapping on the glass and looking in at him. And he's got people peeking through the little food slot at him in his cell, the exact thing that he wanted to avoid.
Yep.
He like walked himself right into this situation.
You chose it, and you choose it again every single day, Chris, because even a person like fucking Bonesaw is getting her own apartment.
Seriously, he didn't even do anything that bad, right?
Yeah, not this version of him, certainly. Yeah. I mean, he did some horrible stuff to Victoria.
Sure.
But like not on the wide scale of Bonesaw.
Yes. Okay. He did some bad stuff, but like I think that I think the attitude was like he earned himself a lot of cred with his giants, and probably could have just been fine based on that.
Yeah, there was definitely an opportunity there for him. I mean,
sure.
like Riley, like it is no accident that we have the 2 people that worked or were supposed to work together to create the solution that saves the world talking to each other. One of them leaves to go to her own apartment. The other is stuck in a cell. This could have been his moment. Like he could have been the guy that saved the world.
Yeah. Yep. So, yep. So despite being rejected by Chris, Bonesaw decides that she can, if she can have a real connection with someone like Kenzie, then there is hope for her. And so she decides she will stay the course.
Yeah. And so we might still be worried about Kenzie. TM. We do leave the chapter feeling pretty good about Riley. Hopeful about her life going forward. So I think in that regard, this does match up with the other epilogue chapters where we leave feeling pretty good about our point of view character. I think it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. She's probably going to relapse a few times. Hopefully people won't die when that happens. But, you pick up the pieces of your destroyed life and you move on.
Yep. Love it. All right, Scott, let's move on into 20.E5. And here we have Point Me at the Sky logs in again, checks her email. It's very nostalgic. I love it. So this is just like mostly going to be kind of hitting all the main points because like it's sort of a listicle wrapped up plot threads. I mean, I love how it's executed. It serves as an epilogue chapter in much the same way that Glowworm served as a prologue. We've got like passing hints at stuff that if we think about it indicates certain specific resolutions for certain things, but we don't go into it in detail.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I tend to really enjoy these internet screen chapters as like creative writing endeavors. Like it's just a new and interesting way of telling a story. And so I really enjoyed Glowworm. I like it here. It also, as we spoke about at the beginning of the show, marks a change in the epilogue structure in a couple ways. In every epilogue before this, we've had that side character point of view that primarily dealt with their own path to recovery, and that kind of mirrored or ran parallel to a member of Breakthrough and their path forward. That changes here. The point of view here is not a person, it is technology. I mean, it's technology surrounding Victoria, but we're seeing chat logs, a phone conversation, email. Those are the type of things we're seeing. We're not actually seeing through the conscious mind of anyone in this chapter. Yeah. Also, every other chapter, the tone starts off pretty dark and ominous, and then quickly swings into this kind of very hopeful and upbeat ending. The literal exact opposite happens here, where the first half of the chapter is like warm and fuzzy and makes you happy and seeing how all these characters are continuing and moving on with their lives. And then it shifts to plot, scary, trouble.
Yeah. True.
I think there are specific reasons why it's doing that, and we'll get to those. But I was wondering what you thought of the overall epilogue structure, those chapters and then this one kind of shifting things up.
Yeah. I don't know because like it was definitely a surprise to me. I'll say that I really thought that we were. I mean, Wildbow never lets anything get stale, but I thought that I understood what the epilogues were going to do, and this definitely threw me for a loop in terms of like how it feels when it ends. Even having a chapter that was another Glowworm like internet chapter felt right to me. I was like, oh yeah, like okay, we're touching upon the Glowworm stuff again, and much of it does feel like you said really like lighthearted, like it's Annalise, they're gonna hang out, they're gonna see a movie, Sveta sends her links sometimes, that's cute, but then then it ends in this like slightly ominous way where you're like, okay, well, what are we going to do about this? But I think you're onto something with what you said earlier about how but Victoria doesn't need to do anything about that.
Right.
Like this is just her tendency to be like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Nothing. You can't do anything about this. This is not your responsibility. This is just like, it'll get handled.
Mm-hmm. There are people there's a support structure for Kenzie that can deal with that. If we're going to try to save Tristan from this thing he's living in, how can you do that, Victoria? I mean, maybe you could like offer scholarly advice on some of this stuff, but like people are going to need to do this. Like this is not like Victoria crisis must deal with now, must continue story so Victoria can solve the next problem type thing.
Right.
And I think the beauty of it is this is gonna happen. Like I think Darnall says it perfectly. Like this is like the first crisis that Kenzie's had since the end of the world, basically.
Yeah.
And how good feeling that is. But also like these moments are gonna happen. Like I think it's easy to be on this path to recovery and to be doing this thing, taking care of yourself, saying I'm semi-retired. Those things are easy when the world is cool and good. And then the second you're tempted, the second something goes wrong, the second there's a crisis, it's very easy to fall back into those same patterns again. And I think one of the things I love about this chapter, as kind of ominous as it is we're actually seeing very explicitly the breaking of those patterns, kind of just capped off with the fact that Victoria is calling her therapist about all this stuff, not like rushing off. We'll get to that. I'm getting ahead of ourselves,
yeah.
But I definitely think like this is pattern breaking, not relapse type stuff.
I agree. Yeah. So I guess I would just say that I don't know if it is as ominous as maybe it might seem on some levels.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll get there though. So Victoria's not getting into college because it's like double apocalypse. So
just not the time. But I mean, I think this is important because it shows that she applied again, right?
Yeah.
Like she's not giving up, and I don't see her giving up after that rejection either. I think she's going to apply again. I think I am comfortable in saying that this is not a notification that is going to be near as devastating to her as it was when we saw it way back in the Glowworm chapter.
Yeah. No, that's a great parallel. Like because that she had to talk to Crystal and everyone was shocked and it was a huge setback for her. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Victoria's going to go over to Annalise's house for dinner and a movie. Yeah. Ratcatcher, who is obviously with Foresight now, sends a scandalous email from Ethan's account. You be good, Ratcatcher.
Don't you mean Mousetrap?
I get, yes. I love that.
I like that name, but the implication of it to me is that rat somehow equals villain, and that makes me feel bad for rats. They didn't do anything.
Yeah.
They carried a lot of diseases, but that's not their fault.
Yeah, I mean they're survivors. Got a lot going for them.
Yeah. You be Ratcatcher still. That can be a hero name.
Yeah, sure. Ratcatchers are doing a public service. Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know what Fitcher's bird is. Actually, okay, I wrote that line in the script and then I went and I found out what it was. But Scott, tell me what Fitcher's bird is.
So Fitcher's bird is a fairy tale. It's a one of the Brothers Grimm's collection of fairy tales that I guess in this world was made into a movie. Possibly a Disney movie, like an equivalent Disney movie, right? Where they took a fairy tale and Disneyfied it. But it's really interesting because the basic premise is that this evil sorcerer guy like kidnaps girls and then to marry him. He locks them in his house and then goes away and says, all right, you can look anywhere you want in the house, but if you go in this one room, I'll kill you. Also, here's an egg. You have to hold this egg. And if you get the egg dirty, I'll kill you. And so then he leaves the girls alone, and one of them immediately goes into the room and finds a big bowl with a bunch of blood and body parts in it and gets so freaked out she drops the egg in there and that stains it, so she gets killed and chopped up. The point is that at one point the youngest sister like outsmarts the sorcerer, puts the disparate body parts of her sister back together, and they come back to life, and then they burn the sorcerer man alive. The point is that like the idea of like your younger sister finding you in pieces and then putting those pieces back together is like I listened to that and I'm like, Victoria, this is not a good. Did you know? I mean, she says she hasn't seen it, so. Is this going to be a good date? I don't know if this is going to be a good date.
I think this is going to be the worst date in the world. I'm sorry, Annalise. I'm sorry. I mean, it's funny because if we didn't read into that, we'd just be like, oh, they're going to get cozy and watch a movie. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like, oh, no. Oh, God. I mean, it's got eggs in there and everything.
Yeah, it's got eggs. It's got sisters putting people back together. Yeah, it's, I mean, not at all triggering for our Victoria. Not at all.
Oh, my God. I still don't. I need to touch back on eggs at some point because we haven't talked about eggs in too long.
I need you to write a 1,000 word essay on eggs in Word.
That'll be at the conclusion. That'll be our last episode. Just me reading. We should be reading that on air. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So Typhlosis reaches out to Victoria about helping with the plan to bring Valkyrie and Cinereal back. So that's nice.
Yeah.
So there's hope for these capes that we like, and Vicky's retirement seems to really only extend to combat stuff because she's in contact with all these other cape folks and doing capey things, just not punching people.
Yeah, which that doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, she's still and always will be the cape nerd, whether she's flying around throwing people into dumpsters or not. She's still the scholar, and she's still going to want to do scholarly stuff. We actually learned that the plan that they're enacting here was one proposed by Victoria. Like, she's the one that said, "I think this can be done. Try to make this work." And they're like, "Yeah, we think this is possible. So, would you be willing to help out?" She's like, "Yeah, hell yeah, I'll fly to Japan. I'll do it."
Yeah, I mean, if you can fly to Japan, why not?
What is her top speed? Do we know that?
I think it's like 60 miles per hour. So that's a long flight.
It's a long flight. Yeah.
You're going to bring some food and a backpack. Mm-hmm. But you know, I mean, it would be an adventure, right?
Sure.
Get your force field and you're not going to freeze.
No.
Yeah. So that's cool. Sveta sends her a link, which is like a great news story about the Majors, formerly the Major Malfunctions, taking down Lord of Lost, that pompous bastard. Apparently they beat him really quickly too, which just is icing on the cake. And of course their newest member, Limerick, is a hit.
Limerick! He's a 5-line poem, Matt. It's like art.
It's art. It's a mixture of art and math.
Yes. It's perfect. I love it.
And he's wearing this super, super colorful outfit.
He's got dyed hair, a mask, a black and gold outfit with paint splashes of color on it, despite his seemingly serious, taciturn personality. I love this so much. I love it so much. There's so much to love here. Like, it's poetic in more than just the Limerick way, right? Like, I think it's Withdrawal that says one of our mentors got shot at the community center attack. He played a part in that, he being Lord of Lost, sorry.
Yeah.
And so this is, again, kind of the book coming full circle and saying they took down this guy that hurt Fumehood, the person they really cared about, and also just happened to set forward a lot of the plot elements that carried the story forward. And so they're kind of, you know, wrapping that up at the end. And I think one of the things that was most important to me here, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I don't think so, the positivity and optimism in which this story about hero capes is written. I think, like, you can read what happens here and you can see in your head a version of the story told by an anti-parahuman publishing company, right? Like, it goes from malfunctions have great day, take down notorious criminal, only casualty in fight a tent, to capes destroy tent in petty battle. Like, you know, like there's just so many other ways you can frame it. And I just love that, like, here at the end of the book, we've been told about how humans and capes have kind of come to this new equilibrium where the people that are more interested in capes are kind of staying around and the people less interested are kind of flocking to different areas, but they can ask for help when they need it. And I to see that reflected in the media of the world, I think is really great, because this is positive. This is optimistic. We've got a great new cape force here, and they're wonderful and effective, and we're hopeful for their future. Like, it's just relentlessly optimistic in a newspaper, which, like, I just love it. I love it.
Yeah. Well, sure. I mean, especially compared to Glowworm, where it was just that there was at least one chapter in there where it was just like a list of all of these sort of like anti-parahuman biased stories about just like, here's another example of these two young people who became axe murderers and their capes. And it's just like this, the whole press attitude seems to be much more positive and, you know, covering these plucky young heroes. And then all the comments are like, yeah, they're awesome. Yeah. Instead of like, you know, fuck capes.
Yeah. It's capes' faults. They failed us. Blah, blah. Yeah. There's none of that. None of that at all.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's a great way of subtly connecting back to the beginning and showing us that things are different now.
Yep.
But the comment section, of course, is the best part, because we finally reveal the identity of Mlek, one of the major mysteries of Ward.
It's Caden. It's the antagonist of the story. Let it never be said that Wildbow is not sometimes the most delightful troll in the world.
Yes.
I literally, like, laughed out loud, so loud that my wife was like, what is going on? And I was like, I can't explain this to you. There's zero explanation except for reading this book for 2.5 years to see this moment, which is just funny. Like, it's just so funny. It doesn't matter at all. It's just really funny.
I laughed for like a solid minute, just deep belly laugh as soon as it clicked, right? Like, it's funny because at first I laughed when I saw Mlek, because I was like, oh, it's Mlek. Delightful that Mlek would be here. He's just gonna wait a second. And then I died.
Hey, Mlek, you forgot to log out of your other account.
So good.
My god.
Yeah, not only is Caden Mlek, but Caden goes around complimenting himself.
Yeah. Oh, it's perfect. fucking kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you skipped over the best line in the comment section, though, which is, I'm 14 and I want him to look at me like he doesn't give a shit about me. It's so true to the internet. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Very good internet user voice.
Yes.
Yeah. So moving on from that, Etna reaches out to Victoria and is ignored.
Okay. We don't know she's ignored. Like, it was only sent 16 minutes ago, and since then she's dealing with a little bit of a crisis, so she might respond later. You don't know. The point is that the throwing someone into a hill meme is textual in the story now.
Yes.
Which is the best thing ever. Like, the first half of this chapter is Wildbow just having some fun. Like, the book is over. We're in the epilogue. He's having fun.
Exactly.
And not to say that the rest of the book wasn't fun to write or to read, but like, this is it. It's over.
Yeah.
This is the end. If there's any place that we can have fun in this way, it's here.
Yeah.
And it's delightful.
Be a little bit silly. Have some egg references.
Yeah.
Have like you said, throwing people in the hill to fix them references. Yeah. I was just like smiling this whole time.
Yeah.
And then of course that's pretty much the end of the overt smiling, because we then go into this very serious part, because Dragon contacts Victoria about Kenzie's activities, and the long story short is we learn that during the scene when Imp and the Heartbroken were trying to talk Kenzie down prior to her meltdown and her drugging, she was actually in contact with Tristan using the crystal befriender box. It actually seems like a lot of what's happening in her like semi-autonomous boxes is like they're doing all these interrelated tasks that like it's impossible for her to do these things, but they're decoding and connecting and figuring out the shard network for her.
Yes.
Especially because he's occupied in this moment, so they kind of have to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it takes you a bit. This whole setup is really wonderful for me. I think it takes you a bit to realize that what's happening is we're hearing a conversation we've actually already heard. And that is 100% true. The wording of the dialogue is identical to the way it was back in Imp's interlude, right? Yeah. Right?
Yeah, it has to have been.
Yes,
yeah.
It was Imp's interlude. It's identical to that. And once you start to see that, those beats that sound repetitive to you, like, oh yeah, I've heard this before. Oh yeah, this is this. And once you realize that, I think it really kind of changes Kenzie's responses a little bit here, because she's talking to Tristan the whole time that she's talking about Tristan, about like whether it's possible or not. I think it really enriches the scene for me in a way that like on reread, I'm not going to read it the same way at all.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I didn't pull it out, but like there's one sentence she says in there that's like borderline grammatical. And now I'm like, oh, well, she's like super distracted. So she's not really paying attention to what she's saying.
Yeah. There's also a lot of fun, like we've gotten to the more serious part of the chapter, but I think Wildbow is still having fun in like the details of the code here. Like Crystal Befriender box gets a little overloaded because like it's trying to do too much, because we see Crystal Befriender box reply is too many, help me. Yeah. And then we see Kenzie then tap other resources, like we see Rain Workshop box, Projector box, RB, Portal Hyperbox, Dragon collab, and Hair Clips are all tapped. And also like she tries, or the automated programming tries to tap into the Warden base resource worm, because she's like wormed her way into and it's basically like, hey, if you do this, Dragon will notice and the Wardens might get hurt. Do you still want to do it? She says no. She doesn't use that connection. It says like she declines it. But there's a bunch of fun stuff here, like the Rain Workshop box reply to when connected is here to give you a hand, which is just fucking Kenzie. Like she's adorable. Yeah. And the Dragon box is here, rar.
Yeah. No, it's there's so much cleverness put into all of this, right?
Right. And sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. It's amazing that this works as well as it does, right?
Sure. And that's why I love when Wildbow experiments with these kind of explorations of different formats of telling a story. I think they're always interesting and fun, and I think he always manages to use them in interesting ways. Like there is story to be gained from the lines of code outside of just the dialogue. Like I think on first read, my tendency is to just skip all the stuff that's like the extraneous code stuff. Like, I don't need to know that. But no, there's story in there.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I agree. That's it's like it's just on the border between being like impenetrable and being like rewarding. You know what I mean? Like you're like, I can just skip over that, right? And then you're like, no, it's like Easter eggs. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. So yeah, we learned that Tristan is only half buried. He's half buried, half in dreams, half able to see the world through Byron's eyes. And, you know, it's all very heartbreaking being interwoven with the dialogue from her team trying to talk her down as it is.
Yeah. So this is the secret Kenzie has that she's worried is about to blow up. And Tristan is not just in the dream world, only partially so. And I love that Tristan is horrified that Kenzie went digging to discover this. I love it because there's a dilemma now, right? Like, you have two options here. You can do something about this information that you've learned, try to fix the problem, try to help Tristan, and risk failing, which means that Byron now spends his entire life knowing that Tristan is in there somewhere, which will basically destroy Byron. Like Byron, he's too empathetic of a person. Like, I don't know if he'll be able to handle that for the rest of his life. This idea that like, oh, Tristan's always there. He's behind me. He can't get out. Especially since he's felt that way himself, right? Like that's what Tristan did to him.
Exactly.
So that's option one. Option two is lie. And then therefore Kenzie has to carry this burden of this truth for the rest of her life. And I love that Tristan's like, I can't ask a kid to do that. That's awful. Like, and so just her nosiness, her need to research and find out stuff has exposed a truth that could destroy a ton of people. And oh, it's so heartbreaking. Like it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Like hopefully the solution is we try to save Tristan, at least give him peace. Like allow him, like disconnect him from Byron in a way where he can just go to Dream World and be in shard heaven with the rest of the lost people, rather than in this weird like torturous limbo.
Yeah. So, you know, it's funny. I wonder if you happen to remember how long Byron was trapped inside the Tristan.
Not exactly. Months.
Yeah, it was months, because I was just thinking this is also months, right? At this point. So it's just an interesting symmetry that at this point, Tristan has basically been trapped for as long as Byron was, plus or minus. I think this has been longer now, actually, but he's only half trapped, so whatever.
Yeah. And that's his weird kind of half existence, right? Where it's like he's half dreaming, half aware. Ugh.
Yeah, I do wonder where this is going to go, or even if this is going to go anywhere, because, you know, I mean, I think we react the same way Victoria reacts, where she's like, oh shit, what are we going to do about this? And we're like, oh shit, what are we going to do about this? And the truth is, like, this story's over.
Right.
I mean, they may save Tristan in the next short number of chapters, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't know, if we don't find out, if we just have maybe a hope, maybe a suggestion that there's a path one way or the other. But sometimes you don't get to see the resolution of every single thing. And I think that might work well with the themes of this book.
Sure. I mean, I do think there's going to be a Byron-centric chapter before the end. I think so. It would feel weird to me if we had a Byron chapter that doesn't address this in some way, whether possibly not directly, but I feel like it's going to address this one way or another. I agree with you that I don't know. I don't know if the whole chapter is going to revolve around solving this problem or not. I think part of it could, and then maybe we move on to something else. Because, I mean, like, we learn through Victoria, her conversation with Darnall, that Byron, like, his 6 months or however many it's been, 5 months, haven't been great. Like, he's not doing great. He's still, even before he learns, if he learns this information about Tristan, he's still having a really hard time with his brother's death. He's not doing great. And I think we need to set him on a path forward around that in some way. It doesn't have to be like, oh, he's fine now. And there's like, we just need to do something with that.
Yeah.
And I think the instigation for him getting to hopefully a brighter place around his brother's death is probably going to circle around this concept of limbo. And I wonder if it's going to be something like communication between the two, you know, because that's one thing we never got in the story, right? Like Kenzie was working for a very long time to be able to hear one person, the person that was inside. And so we never had these two brothers since their trigger be able to talk to each other. Like really, like not their fast switchy thing, you know, where they were like taking over and then back, but really just like having a conversation. And I wonder if before we end this book, these two brothers will have a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I want to happen. I think I said something like months and months ago about like I desperately just want the scene where they are able to talk like face to face, ideally.
Right.
That's I mean, I know better than to hope for things like that, but that's what I've wanted, right? That is the yearning that has been installed in my heart by the way the story has progressed, and just made me want these two brothers to be able to get along and to support each other. Because I think that's probably what Byron needs. Byron needs Tristan. Tristan needs Byron.
Yeah.
So we cut to Victoria flying to see Darnall, freaking out about the implications of all this. She's disappointed in herself for missing another potential lookout catastrophe right under her nose. And she's also just saying fuck a lot.
Right. So I'm going to say something, and I want to preface what I'm about to say with the statement that what Kenzie and Tristan are going through here is awful. And I do think in some way the rest of the epilogues are going to be dealing with part of that, at least. I don't know. Tristan is in kind of a limbo hell, and I think that's probably going to be resolved in some way or another. But throw all that away right now, because the important part of this conversation is not Victoria, or is not Tristan, is not Kenzie. It's Victoria, and how Victoria reacts to this news, because she calls her fucking therapist, Matt, Wayne. First of all, she calls him Wayne. She calls him by his first name. It's not Dr. Darnall. She calls him Wayne, and she calls her therapist, calls him by his first name. This shows how much their relationship has changed and strengthened over these months. We skipped over this, but we saw in the email chain that she had an email from him reminding her of an appointment. So it's pretty clear that she's going to him regularly. She's practicing self-care for like the first time ever. But like we've been talking about all episode, there's a crisis, and Victoria immediately starts doing the same thing Victoria always does when there's a crisis. Thing number one, she blames herself. This is my fault. I did this. I should have seen this, and therefore I need to fix it. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. But there's something different here, and it's not just her reaction. It's everything. So this is not a normal chapter of writing in a Wild Bow story, right? This is all dialogue, and it's all dialogue because the point of view here is the phone conversation. The phone is our point of view. We are not in either of these characters' heads right now. We are just hearing what they're saying over the phone. And the difference here is Victoria is saying these things, not thinking them. Like, we have been party to Victoria's head for 1.8, I don't know how many we're up to, 1.8 million words. And we've heard her say all these things to herself over and over and over again. She's not thinking them anymore. She's saying them to a therapist. She's not immediately acting on them. Is she rushing to Kenzie's house right now? Is she rushing to go check on Byron? Is she rushing to go call her team? Is she calling up Sveta and saying, we got to do something? Is she calling up the wardens and saying, how are you going to help me do something? No. She called her therapist, and she's rushing to his office to get help with this. We are robbed of Victoria's internal monologue by a structural choice that Wildbow made, but it doesn't matter because she's verbalizing her inner monologue for maybe like the first time ever to a person that can help her, that can talk her down, that can make her see that the solution here is for you, Victoria, to do nothing. Come here, talk to me. We'll figure this out. Know that those people have people that are taking care of them. And you can help in the future, maybe. Like, you're smart. You understand shards in a way that nobody else does. Maybe you can help there. But come here. Talk to me. Let's come up with a plan. Let's do this the way that emphasizes self-care, that emphasizes what is most important to you right now is you, and trust that other people will take care of it. And it's incredible. I love, like, Wildbook could have just switched to a normal chapter here, right? Like, he could have, and I think he's done it before, where like part of it was some fancy like parahumans online or and then like we switch over from that to normal writing, like normal chapter writing. But he doesn't do that. This is just a phone conversation. Like I said, we don't get to hear what Victoria is thinking. But also, we do get to hear what Victoria is thinking. And I just find that wonderful. I find that, like, I did not feel like I was missing any part of the scene because I couldn't hear Victoria's thoughts. I felt like this was totally in line with the Victoria I know. And I think it's a perfect way of showing the ways in which she's changed and grown, because she's willing to express these things out loud, these things she's thinking.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I think that she probably is being more completely open with Wayne, as we'll call him now, than really she probably ever was with Jessica. I mean, I think maybe Wayne is speaking to her at a level that works better for her than she's ever been able to find before.
Right.
I mean, the fact that she's continuing to see him and that this is her go-to guy. This is the guy she's got on speed dial when she has a crisis, even after months, really speaks to this idea that, like you're saying, that she has really opened up to him. She's really gotten better at pinning down and identifying these thought processes that don't necessarily serve her. I mean, I like the part where she kind of like freaks out about the idea that a trainee be given responsibility for Kenzie, but like, even the way she kind of blows up about that is like, it struck me as like the way you can sort of hyperbolically blow up at a friend and you both know that you're not really mad,
Mm-hmm.
Like she's not really being like, are you fucking stupid, Darnall? She's like, that's ridiculous. It's a communication between people who know each other really well, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, like Riley doesn't stop being Riley just because she's on this path. Victoria doesn't stop being Victoria either. And I think her like calling out Darnall on stuff that she finds absurd is just vintage Victoria. Are you fucking like,
are you fucking kidding me? Yeah.
Yeah. Like that, she's not going to become an entirely different person. It's just the way she reacts to things is going to change. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. Victoria doesn't call up her therapist 10 months ago in the middle of a crisis. She flies out there to deal with it herself.
Right. She goes to punch Tristan right out of Byron's head.
Yeah, that'll solve it.
Yep.
So yeah, that's it. We're done.
That's that chapter.
So we do leave on a little bit of an ominous note, but like I said, I really do think this is still hopeful because it shows in action 6 months later who Victoria is now.
Yeah.
And she's a person that calls her therapist when bad shit happens.
So does this mean that we're probably going to get Byron next? Or not Byron, but some perspective on Byron. So a Vista chapter then.
Yeah. I mean, a Vista chapter would make the most sense because I think that would be a perfect way to say goodbye to Vista as well, who hasn't been a big focus in the story, but has gotten some time. And I want to see where the story leaves her. This poor girl who watched her family became the wards, and then she watched them all die, and she kind of committed herself to this life of caping more than anything in the world. I want to see where the story leaves her. I want to see how she's doing here on the other side of the second apocalypse. So I would like that. But I do think next is probably Byron. And I feel like the Tristan stuff will be wrapped up by the end of E6, and then I think E7 is going to be our final goodbye for everyone.
I've been anticipating a Crystal interlude for this entire book. We haven't had like a full Crystal interlude, have we? Yeah, I'm still holding out that the final the Victoria the final Victoria perspective interlude is going to be Crystal.
Do you think that Natalie gets nothing?
Natalie will like be on the phone with someone else while they're in the room, and then here's
the final interlude is going to be Vista's birthday party, and I think Sveta and Victoria will be talking, and Sveta will be like, I don't see Natalie. Where's Natalie at? And Victoria will be like, oh fuck, I forgot to invite her.
Yeah, no, that's good.
The end.
Yeah, I like that. My theory for the ending is that Mark begins to explain we were on a boat when we were attacked, and then the credits roll. All right. Well, I'm really, I don't know. For some reason, I guess it's not for some reason. It's not that mysterious. I'm really excited to see how like what exactly the next two, what exactly the ending of the story is. Exactly. Sure. Precisely. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Let's move on into discussion.
Well said, I guess.
It's the discussion of the discussion question. So the question was best odd couple in Parahumans.
Yeah. And I think this is a failure on my part to explain what odd couple means. The standard definition of odd couple is two people that are like so different that it seems crazy that they would be together. We got some answers that were that, and we got some people that just took the word odd and couple and made like, who are the weirdest fucking people out there, which is a fine answer.
Yeah. I guess everybody in this story is kind of odd, right?
Yes.
So
anyway.
Yeah. So from Rid Tom, we have, they're talking about Star Song, which is apparently the ship name for Ashley and Victoria. They ask, really, how did they become friends? Most likely, despite their many differences, they both have something the other wants or that they both want. Victoria admires Ashley's ability to project confidence and find a way of holding herself as elegant, even when at her best. Ashley admires Victoria's ability to communicate respectfully with others and the keen eye she has for the people she cares about. Victoria and Ashley both long for recognition from their peers, friends, and loved ones, Ashley having lived without them, and Victoria having had them stripped away against her will. Victoria and Ashley both wish for a second chance after their former lives and deaths, wishing to make an impact on the world for the better. Even their costumes are opposite color matched. As much as Ashley may lecture about towels, Swan Song drapes herself in white, while Terry's contrasts in black. To say nothing of how Ashley's hair and costume were basically inspired by Victoria's ideals. It's a lovely friendship, no matter how you view it. Both prospered, having allowed the other to find a connection in the new world where the rules have changed. Love it.
I like that. I think one of the cool things about Ashley and Victoria is on the surface they seem so diametrically opposed, but the more you learn about them, the more you see the ways in which they are very similar.
I like the question being posed though, because we didn't really get a microscopic, investigation of how their friendship happened. They were living together and they gradually became friends, which is really how most friendships happen.
Yeah, right. Like, I don't think most friendships have a moment where like, and now we are friends.
Right. Yeah. How did you and I become friends, Scott? I think we lived in the same hallway and then we became friends.
Yeah.
There you go.
We saw each other a lot, and then we decided to consciously make the decision to do that more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, next we have Sarah Penguin, who says, so we have Dauntless, the closest thing to a stereotypical hero for the sake of good. He would be called a good trigger and is happy to risk himself to protect others. He is the hometown hero, and people question if he might one day get strong enough to beat an Endbringer. Turns out, yes, he does. Then we have Fumehood, a girl who acts shitty and becomes literal poison to those around her. Unlike Dauntless, she's a villain who is all over the place. Endless name changes on and off with Blasto, asshole tattoo, and interestingly placed piercings. Deep down, she has a bit of dauntlessness, heroicness, and with help from Victoria and the malfunctions, she finds it. That heroicness inside them both, along with the desire to protect a young person's they care for, leads them to form the unlikeliest of duos as the Titans with the gooey human center fighting other Titans to save the humans. So this is wonderful. Sarah Penguin has said Fumehood and Dauntless are the odd couple, and I love it. I love it.
I also love the idea that there was speculation that he could be powerful enough to defeat an Endbringer, and then that totally happened.
Yeah, so. It did totally happen. The fact that they are called Eve and Kronos is interesting due to the crossovers between their origins, both from a creation story. Eve from humans and Kronos from the Greek gods, both born from Earth. Eve was made from Adam's rib, but he was made from dirt, so his rib was also dirt, so technically she's also dirt. Kronos was born from Earth and sky, having sex. True. Both existed in a paradise. Eve had the Garden of Eden. Kronos, after castrating the sky, became the king of the Titans, living in a golden age where laws didn't exist because everyone was always good. Their downfall was both eating. They were both punished unpleasantly, and both created and creator. Eve was made by God, but she's also the mother of all humans, being the first to give birth. Kronos was made by the earth and sky, but he also created Zeus and his siblings. Some great fun connections with Eve and Kronos. I like that answer. I never would have thought of that. That's really creative. I like it.
Yeah, that is fascinating. I'm kind of blown away. Honestly, that's really cool. I never would have thought of those, or even thought to connect those two characters in that way.
Yeah.
And did I read the name of the? Yeah, Rid Tom was the first comment. I don't remember if I read the name. Anyway, I think I did. Impona 45 says SMH best odd couple is Lisa x Victoria.
Matt, do you know what SMH means?
It means shaking my head.
Okay, good. You're getting old now. I just need to make sure you're up on the lingo.
I wish I'd been able to pull out a wrong but humorous interpretation, but no.
Lisa and Victoria is a great answer. And
I agree.
They didn't feel the need to elaborate, and because it speaks for itself, Lisa and Victoria.
Right. I think we've talked about them as being an odd couple fairly recently. So yes, yeah. I agree.
And then we had arguably one of the greatest arcs in the story, which is Lisa and Victoria solve crime together, which is just love it.
Yeah, I still love that so much.
Extas Nouveau says, which couple isn't odd in Parahumans? The bearded nerd and his C:/dragon/girlfriend.bat, the struggling lesbian villain and hero couple, the Nazi breeding program couple, the I puke in your mouth and make you stronger couple. See, while I agree that those are odd people, I think all those people are perfect for each other.
Yeah, they're perfect matches. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like puking in your mouth to make you stronger is literally like synergy.
Yeah. I mean, I think the point is all of these couples are kind of weird and disturbing, and yeah. Okay. Well, the first two aren't weird and disturbing, but they're very they're very unusual. Leave it that way.
I think I could argue that Parian and Foyle kind of make an odd couple. But like Parian never really wanted to be a villain, you know? So like
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think if you portray them as like upstanding hero and villain who rips people's skin off, that's one thing, but that's not really a fair characterization of who Parian is. So all right, next comment. Daedalus Fallen says the best comedy goes to Side Piece and Disjoint, hands down. Their power interaction and personal chemistry are just too good for the amount of screen time they get. They also are up there. They're up there in terms of functionality in their relationship, because while they may be villains, they're not half bad to each other. The oddest couple goes to whoever the hell Imp dated back in Brockton Bay during the time skip. You can try to convince me it wasn't Kid Win, but it won't work because it was totally Kid Win.
I love it.
It's funny. I forgot about that, and now I have to think about that for a while. Best odd couple is the final answer is Dragon and Defiant. They're odd because it's a dude and a robot. It's also a heartwarming story about people influencing each other to become better. Defiant through personal philosophy, and Dragon through becoming closer, code-wise, to a normal human. Their chemistry is through the roof in every way, and they steal almost every scene they're in, even when they're alone. So together, they stick out even more. Their epilogue last time was awesome, and I hope that we get to see just a little bit more of them this time around.
Yeah. Maybe we will. I don't know. Do you think we'll see any more Dragon and Defiant?
I mean, we saw an email from Dragon.
That counts.
That does technically count. I don't think. I don't know. Maybe we'll see them at the like if there's actually like a Brockton Bay reunion, because Defiant did start there. Yeah,
I have this thing where like I should have said this while you were talking about it, but where I was like both completely understanding why Dragon reached out to Victoria about the whole Kenzie situation, and I was also like, damn it, Dragon, why did you know what she's gonna do?
Yeah, I kind of agree.
All right. Next up we have Dianthus Amarensis, who says, Darlene and Chicken Little. You've got the bright-eyed, feather-tailed Aiden, who just wants everyone to work together and be friends, and Darlene, who constantly needs to be asked whether she's resisting the urge to stab Kenzie. It's kind of adorable the way Aiden has to try really hard to look intimidating and just ends up looking silly, and Darlene's natural demeanor screams terrifying. They also list Brian and Lisa. Obviously not romantic. It's never explicitly focused on, but with Brian being the person assigned to make sure Lisa doesn't go off the deep end with her conclusions, he's one of the only people Lisa is willing to actually listen to. He comes off as a little bit of a cloud cuckoo Landers minder, if you know your TV tropes. I thought I did, but I don't know that, so I guess I don't.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. I was glad to see them hanging out again on the battlefield at the end of Ward. It's cool that Lisa has Victoria as a friend, but it's even cooler that now she has two friends. And then Dianthus also wrote Eric and Scenario, and they did a strike through it, but I still saw it. And so Dianthus says Eric and Scenario. Odd couple.
Yeah, that's my favorite one so far.
Yep.
Vice Versailles says, I know it's been a book, but we can't forget about Golem and Weaver, an odd couple indeed, the ex-Nazi and the ex-warlord who killed a triumvirate member. I think Taylor taught Theo to be the hero she couldn't be, and I think he learned most of those lessons without her help. The two have a lot of hefty parallels. Taylor wanted to be a hero, but became a villain because she needed good people in her life. Theo was raised to be a villain, but became a hero to escape the bad people in his life. Yet both triggered from being trapped and abandoned, and both handled their trauma with restraint and aplomb. There's a great deal of who you could have been in the comparison between the two. I stand by that Golem doesn't have a Manton limit after all. It's not like there's skin on his fans to demonstrate, but absence is not proof to the contrary.
What the fuck?
It's a horrifying thought.
Oh my God.
Thanks for, I'm sure we both immediately visualize what exactly he's talking about here.
Yes.
At the same time, their relationship is that of a student and the mentor. Taylor took special interest in teaching him to fight well and train better, and it's fair to say that she's probably why he's so buff even now. I think the reason she put in that effort is because Theo still had the opportunity to be a real hero, while her own career was always going to be tarnished by that one time she conquered a city. Yes, her focus on him was a vent for her frustrations about not being able to find and fight the 9,000, but I think there's room for the grizzled veteran's redemption arc there. Once again, Taylor didn't teach Golem everything he knows. Yes, he's a good fighter, but goddamn, Theo's a good person too. Anyway, kind of crazy how she shot his sister, huh? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that was a good answer. It was such a good answer, actually, that our next person, Brick Manor, also lists Golem and Taylor. I think Golem's interlude in particular really establishes the difference in their worldviews and priorities at the start of Taylor's time with the Chicago Wards. Although we didn't get to see much of it, their shared purpose and interactions when the Slaughterhouse Nine come back is fun to see. They've got a cool rapport and an interesting relationship despite everything, like Taylor's murder of his half-sister. I hope we get to see some Golem in the epilogues to come. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we could in that final one.
Yeah, if that is what it is, then we'll probably see a lot of these. Even if it's just like, yep, there's Golem.
Mm-hmm. He's doing good.
He's being buff. He's got a I don't know. Somebody's gonna yell at me for forgetting her name. Grace. No.
Look, he's got a lot of ladies. You really can't keep track.
Oh shit. I'm fired. Oh, well.
I can't remember either, man.
Okay.
I don't think it.
Okay.
We'll see her in E7, right?
Yes, we will.
E7.
Yes, we will. Wanson says, Gregor the Snail and Shamrock. Gregor is, as far as parahumans go, one of the chillest dudes ever. He doesn't like the way he looks like, but he learned to accept it early on. He put his all into finding out who was responsible for his misfortune, but once he found Cauldron, he didn't join the Irregulars' raid, showing either a healthy fear of Contessa, or that his family with Fault Line's crew is more important to him than getting answers / revenge. We don't actually know a lot about Shamrock, but as far as K63s go, she's basically the polar opposite of Gregor. She's very attractive without any of the usual deformities. Also, she has all of her memories, unlike the other Cauldron experiments. So basically, Gregor has every reason to be envious of her, but instead they wind up happily married.
It's a great answer.
Yay.
I love them.
Those were the two where I was just like so happy when we saw them in Ward and was like, oh, they're just happy.
They are. That's great.
There's no horrible catch. I'm so surprised.
Yep. All right, last but not least, we have Sanjay, who says Brandish and Flashbang. I like them because I'm an old man and not as interested in teenage romance drama as I once was. It's a charm of this kind of longer form narrative that we can have mature, lived-in relationships. I love that they have broken up and tentatively got back together. I love that old people can get some love. In light of the old man, these two are darn right ancient. I love that they are background characters and their love story is not front and center. Carol is so damn interesting. She's a lawyer, a superhero, a victim, a ball of trauma, and an insane dance mom. Oh, like dance moms. Like, I get it. Like the reality TV show. Yeah. Right. Everything about this character really fits. We feel her influence throughout the story in Victoria's memories, attitudes, skills, habits, and deeds. Wildbow manages to weave all this together in such a way that whenever we learn something new about her, be it that she needs to sleep with the lights on or her makeout session with Uncle Neil, it had me saying, yeah, that tracks. I'm not as in love with him, but Mark is pretty interesting too. He seems undermotivated compared to the ultra-driven Carol. I don't remember him ever holding down a job and do recall New Wave having money trouble. Maybe he was a stay-at-home dad whilst being a superhero? Victoria makes it clear he had some serious shortcomings as a father. Her memories and narration also give me the impression that Carol was doing the lion's share of the parenting. I'm not sure if that's a right reading or how much of the text supports that, but that was my takeaway. We know there's more to it than him just being chill or lazy. The book makes direct references to his clinical depression and layers of brain damage. Ward also lets us know that he hung out with Russian mercenaries. Given her trauma, it might make sense that Carol feels safest with a strongly manly man that she can totally push around. It also felt right that a rudderless guy like him might just breathe easier with a Carol to guide him. That's some really good stuff. I never really thought about them in this regard, but I do think that they are kind of odd coupley in that they're very different kinds of people. But where is their relationship at the end of this book? I really don't remember. It's not great, but it's not terrible.
I mean, they were physically in the same place, so that's good. Like, yeah. Mark had gone to take care of, or rather, Mark had stayed behind to sort of keep an eye on Amy. Mm-hmm. That's kind of all we know. I mean, Mark is a relatively passive person, mm-hmm. and we haven't really spent time in his head, so it's difficult to really know exactly.
Yeah, I'm not like super hopeful. Super hopeful for like their marriage going forward. I think they've got so many issues. Maybe they'll work. I don't know. We'll see. If they have the opportunity to fight crime together, then that's kind of they've kind of got the night owl. You can do it. You can do it. Jupiter. Miss Jupiter. No. What is it? It's Silk Spectre, right? Silk Spectre. What the fuck did I get Jupiter from? I don't know. Anyway. Maybe because she goes to Mars? No. I think your real name. It might be. I haven't read Watchmen in a long time. Anyway. They kind of got that thing going on. Sure. All right. That's it. That was it. Discussion question for next week. This one's I like this one. What is your favorite part / moment of Ward? Yeah, this is it. This is the last discussion question. This is it. Yeah. So I think what we're going to ask for this one is please be as brief as possible. Right. Like, we get a lot of long answers and we like reading as much of your answer as possible because kind of truncating it messes it up. So feel free to talk about whatever you want. It doesn't have to be a specific moment. It could be a character arc, anything. This is the final Ward discussion question. All bets are off. Just try to keep it short. Yeah, or I might specifically say to give a TLDR if you want to ramble for a bit. Sure. Yeah. All right. That's all we got for you this week on We've Got Ward. You guys are all part of this show, so feel free to provide us with advice, questions, or thoughts on this week's reading. You can reach us via email at gotwormpod@gmail.com or over on our Twitter account at gotwormpod. That same Twitter account is where I will be live reading the final 2 chapters of this book, Matt. We're there. It's happening. Sunday, 2 chapters. And then I'm done. I can't handle it. My personal Twitter is at ScottDaily85, and Matt's is at Moradinamail. I did it. That's right. You did it.
If you're not already subscribed to We've Got Ward, we strongly recommend you do so and never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else you can listen to podcasts.
And as always, you can find this and all the other shows we do over at our website, doofmedia.com. That's where you can find, once again, Do the Right Thing. What is Do the Right Thing, Matt?
It's a writing prompt podcast where you once a week you take 30 minutes, you set aside a tight 30 minutes of your day, and you write a story using 3 or 4 random words from the prompt, and it can be about anything as long as it has those words. It's a really, really good exercise if you're someone who wants to write more, wants to try their hand at writing, and then of course the podcast is the two hosts, Matthias and Jarvis, discuss the stories they wrote that week, what they learned, and discuss a couple of the stories from the people participating in the prompt. And overall, I think it's a great thing to participate in. It's great to listen to, and you should check it out if you haven't yet. Yeah, and here I'm going to extend to you a further challenge. Here's what I'm doing. If you have not written for this week's Do the Right Thing yet, which they're due on Friday at midnight, I believe, write it. But write it like Wildbow wrote the Parahumans Online chapter. Do like a cool email thing, or like a cool messenger program thing, or something like that. Do it like a screen sample thing. I think that'd be a fun exercise. It kind of stretches different writing muscles, and just spend 30 minutes on it, knock it out, use those 3 words, and submit it to Do the Right Thing, and they might talk about your story on their show. So you can check out that show at doofmedia.com, or you can go to their subreddit. It's r/do the right thing. Yeah. Write, WRITE, like writing. Yeah. I did one that had kind of a I am thing in it. I was pretty pleased with that one. You did. It was great. Cool. Yeah. So if you like any of our shows and you want to support them, consider donating to our Patreon account at patreon.com/doofmedia. Supporting us on Patreon at the $45 per month level allows you to select a TV show, book, or video game for us to do an episode of the Doofcast about, rather. Basically, this almost always results in us talking about anime, but hey, sometimes it's Cowboy Bebop, and we like Cowboy Bebop. So yeah. This, as well as every other level, gives you the ability to vote in our quarterly fan art and costume contest, and and the excellent Discord chat. As always, make sure you go on over to Wildbow's Patreon at patreon.com/Wildbow and donate to him as well. This is his world. We are just playing in it. Yeah, and now it's the end of one book, in a very popular series, and it's a transition to him writing something new and something different. So I think now is the perfect time to donate, because it's a scary time. As a content creator, switching from one thing to switching to another is a scary time, and so you can help alleviate some of that stress by rewarding him for his amazing work. So seriously, patreon.com/Wildbow, donate. Please. Absolutely. Yep. So this week, special thanks to new patrons, new Bidoof Breadboy, new Doof dancers, Alexa B, Dennis B, Crystal L, who's upgraded, and Giora M. New Doof troop member, Ian P, and new Supreme Leader Doof Thomas A. Wow. Thanks so much, everyone. Really appreciate that. And hope to see y'all around. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. We're getting... Like we said last week, some of these might be people listening to other shows. But if you're listening to this show and you heard your name, thank you personally. And of course, all of you, however many patrons we have now, it's a lot. Thank you guys so much. It's really, like, I was talking to Matt today, how just incredible it is to look back. We're doing this thing where the show's coming to an end, and we're looking back at the last 3 years since we started We've Got Worm, but 2.5 years doing We've Got Ward. It was a long project. We've been on the ride the whole time, and so it's been an amazing experience. And really, those of you that have supported us either financially or just with your time, or with sharing or talking and interacting with us, thank you. It's wow. I'm gonna get way more emotional on the final episode, but it's starting to hit me, Matt. It's starting to hit me. It's only just starting to hit me to the extent where what you just said, I was like, oh my God, it's real. Yeah. But yes, everything Scott just said, Thank you so much. This has been a fantastic experience, and yeah, a couple more weeks of it.
Yep, that's it.
Hold it together, Matt. All right, that's all we got for you this week. Next week, I think we're gonna finish this book.
I think we are too. Fuck.
Yeah.